Good evening, all, and welcome to the Starting 11 show. Tonight, I'm not going to be involved in a talking capacity, but Billy that way, who represents blue, and Shout red. We are doing what colour is London? Is it red? Is it blue? I am the referee tonight, so I'm going to make sure that these guys don't get into a remote fight. Probably going to happen. And based on the answers, this is the key, because I know you two will moan at me at the end, either way. The key is my mind is wiped. I don't know anything about blue or red. It's how you convince me. I've already got my own opinion because everyone is biased, but it's based on how you give me enthusiasm, facts, and what are here tonight. Okay. And we're gonna have 3 rounds. And our rounds are going to consist of the first one being why you think London is blue or red. The second round will be who of you and why has had the most influence on the Premier League since its birth. 2 massive clubs, so no one can say, 2 clubs that have had a big play in why the Premier League is considered as it is. We'll both definitely agree on that. I think that'll be the only thing that we'll all agree on tonight. And lastly, historical reasons why you believe your city is said colour. So there's going to be some rules to this because you two need rules, I think, tonight. And that is there will be a time limit. You will get, say, 3 minutes on each subject each. I will cut you off if you go over the 3 minutes.
Fair.
Because that would be an unfair advantage. There will be, at the end of each round, I will announce who I think is the winner and convince me. Now, the difficult thing for me is I can't sit on the fence. I have to pick a winner. I can't be saying draw. Every round has to be won. So 3 rounds, odd number. Yeah. So who would like to go first? Because I know you're both itching, but maybe...
Ladies
I
first.
think you should go. No, Billy, you go first.
No, I'm happy to concede that the lady.
Do we have to flip a coin on this just because people?
No, that's fine. I'll go first this round. You go first the next round. We'll keep rotating. It's fine. Cool. So
why is London red?
Simply, I mean, if we're going head to head with Chelsea, we've beat you more times than you have beat us. That's a fact. I don't know how many times, maybe 81. That rings a bell, but we've beat you more times. Secondly, we've actually won more silverware than you guys overall as a club. Also, we had the Invincibles.
Born or Premier League era?
Since the club's been around, we've won more silverware. Invincibles, we've gone a whole season unbeaten. No one has still broken that record. That is why London is red. And my last 2 points is we have an incredible fan base. AFTV, we've seen the effects of AFTV. When Arsenal are doing badly, all fans go and flock to go and see Arsenal. We've got the Gay Gooners. I don't know any club in London that has a diverse kind of fan base. We've even seen the facts of Match of the Day, where if Arsenal play first, Match of the Day, the viewership drops off because most people want to watch Arsenal. And that's Match of the Day, which is, we'll say the country's, home of football. When Arsenal come on first, that's why Arsenal normally build towards the end. When Arsenal play first, people drop off and they're not interested in seeing the other clubs. So that is my 5 points as to why Arsenal is red.
Some solid points.
I didn't even need 3 minutes. I mean, it was game over. Like we beat you more times, clearly. Sorry, over to you.
Yeah, you got to spit a bit of facts, but I'm sure Billy, go on, Bill.
Yeah, go on.
When we define the colour of a city, or when we're defining this as who is the bigger club, who gets the rights of the colour of the city, hence London blue or red, we need to define the word bigger club and how are we looking at aspects of it being a bigger club. In my opinion, a bigger club is someone that reaches across the world. And in my opinion, I think you'd find more fans of Chelsea worldwide than you would Arsenal. If we look at historic values of it, we have had, when you go off of simply, we beat you more and that's the main reason. I would say that we have had bigger moments against Arsenal than Arsenal have against us. When we look at Wayne Bridge making the 1-2 with Good Johnson, being able to beat Arsenal there, I think it was for a cup. I can't remember which cup it was. We won 2-1. We also did it in Baku in the Europa League, beating them 4-1. A massive slaughter that game was. So over the years, we can look at overall. I can't even think of the words. I'm on the spot. But yeah, overall, I think Chelsea have had more defining moments against Arsenal than Arsenal have against us. Also, when we look at records, we're the team that have conceded the least amount of goals in the Premier League, which is harder than losing or not losing a game, in my opinion. I think you have 90 minutes across 38 games to concede a goal, where you have 38 games to not lose. And I think you drew half of them. So I think overall, the Invincibles is slightly overrated compared to our record. But I think that when we look at Chelsea also, I think what we did with African players, we're looking at the likes of Drogba, Essien, just to name a couple. I think when we're looking at that aspect of it, I think Chelsea are a bigger name when it comes to worldwide distribution as a club. I think you'd find more clubs or more people in different countries all across the world that would support or watch Chelsea over Arsenal. And that's simply facts.
Any rebuttal? Can we rebuttal at any point? Or sorry, Joe.
No. There's certainly. So at the end, you've both had your time, and that's exactly what we should do. Both people spoke, not interrupted. Fantastic. So yes, of course. Now, if you want to pick a point of maybe of what Billy said, to pick the bones out of that and say, actually, Bill, you made this point, and vice versa. I think we should do that now. Let's not extend it. Let's reach into what that person has used and pull it out. Sorry, I'm really stirring it here, but
you are. But I'm ready. I'm ready. So you said the Invincibles was overrated, right? Because you guys kept more clean sheets. What is the point of play? What's the point of football? It's to win, right? It's to win. That is. You don't play a sport to be like, oh, actually, I'm gonna draw. The fact that Arsenal went unbeaten, that is significantly more important than keeping a clean sheet. You can keep a clean sheet, but where does that get you? It is all about winning. So the Invincibles can never be said it's overrated because no one has still broken that record to this day. You guys came close, but you still failed. But the whole point, we actually won the league in that season. So that was the whole point. So it's those two things coupled. Firstly, I'm not going to disagree with you actually with Chelsea having more fans worldwide, but specifically we're talking about London, why London is red, right? Specifically. And London probably categorically has more Arsenal fans than Chelsea fans. That's my 2 points, my 2 rebuttal points.
It's a good 2 points, to be fair.
With the Invincibles,
take your time.
When I say they're when they're overrated, I feel that when you look at it with the Invincibles, you say a good point that a lot of people bring up is a good attack or scoring goals wins you games, but defenses win you leagues. And in my opinion, when you go off to say, losing games, it doesn't matter, it's all about winning, you drew half of them. You didn't even win.
We didn't lose. But you did. But you said this is why the point system.
The aim is to win. The aim is to win.
Yeah, the aim is to win. But if you can't split. You don't want to lose, right?
I think Shao was putting it in the context of winning the ultimate, not winning.
Yes, it's not winning. It's literally the ultimate point of playing football is to win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree with that. So in terms of we drew most of them, we still didn't lose. So you can't say because you drew most of your games, it makes it less of an achievement.
I think it's overlooked massively.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Then
why do we get 1 point for drawing and 0 for losing? Just that rationale alone, you still get a point for drawing. It's still an achievement to not lose.
But your point wasn't not losing; it was winning.
Yeah, no, it's winning. But your point is that we drew most of those games. I'm talking about the rationale of drawing.
I think
drawing can't be a rebuttal. Is my point. So, but let me let you speak.
The Invincible team massively underachieved, which I think Arsenal fans could admit as well. That Invincible team massively underachieved in Europe when it came to that squad and how they performed. And I think that
if we're going to go into that detail, like overall, Arsenal's underachieved because we haven't won a European trophy. We could that's a separate point, but yeah, that's fair. But we're talking about why this is the point. Let's go back to the point of why London specifically is red or blue.
It's very difficult to argue with history. And I'm not going to lie, Arsenal have had more history when it came to more history before the 2000s. But I think history is written all the time. I think that Chelsea, over the past 2 decades, have been able to catch up to this history that Arsenal have and been able to overcome what Arsenal Football Club were. I don't think
because of one thing, the cash injection. I'll come on to that in the second point, but let's not lie. The cash injection, whereas Arsenal as a club it's been a growth and development for many years. And that's probably to Joe's second point in terms of the history of what Arsenal have done. Like, we haven't had a massive cash injection where, we've seen in the transfer window, the way Chelsea are throwing around money, that's been the difference of Chelsea. It hasn't been a development. But no, go
on. No, that is end of round 1, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to point out at the end of the round why someone has won. A couple of bits I liked, a couple of bits that I didn't like. It'll be a tough ref. So, Shell, I like the fact that you brought the argument to the question. Is it red or blue? Billy went with a continental, Chelsea's more support around the world, when the subject matter was London. So it's a very good point, Shell, for you to just basically state that. And Billy didn't disagree. Billy essentially agreed that was that. Billy made an excellent point as well about history's always being written. I love what you just closed with there, Billy. I thought was it. I know when it's good because I can see in Shell's face as well. It's true. Factually, on the last 20 years, and we're talking about recent history, and our show's about Premier League, factually, Chelsea have had more success moments everywhere you look, probably other than the FA Cup, which has been quite close. So, great point. Didn't like Shao's AFTV claim. Didn't do any favours whatsoever. Although I rate the TV and massively, it's fantastic. It brings the traffic in. I think that's going in the realms of, something I personally don't like. But for me, ultimately, there is a winner in this one, and it is close. It is close. But the winner for round 1 is Shell. In my head, I rated you both, just so you know. And I thought your arguments, Shell, I'll give you a 5.5 out of 10 for your opening argument. Billy, I gave you a 5, just to realise how close that was. Billy, you poured it back at the end, really focusing on stuff Chelsea are good at. Don't want to be giving you hints here, but I thought you started off a little bit, but I understand that you're battling with Shell, so that's... hence why I'm in this seat. I didn't take up this offer, by the way. So 1-0 to Shell. Sorry, Bill. So our second one, and I love this question, most influence on the Premier League since its birth in the early 90s. So Bill, you go first. Shell did go first last time.
When we say Premier League, do we mean first division? Because you're saying when we're first born. So we go.
No, when the Premier League was born, it's like 92.
Right.
93.
Yeah, so like early
Just
90s.
Premier League era.
Right, okay, strictly Premier League. It's interesting how you worded the question, I will admit, with the influence. I've touched upon this with the opening argument. I think the influence on the Premier League, I think Chelsea looked more appealing when it came to the African players or players of ethnicities. I thought Chelsea was a club where you saw that with bigger players, especially towards more the African players. And I think overall, when we're seeing that, we're seeing what's brought into the Premier League, exports, all them sorts of things. I think also with Chelsea, I think a lot of people hate the money side of it, but I think the money was brought around not just from Chelsea. If you want to be a successful club, money has to go around the board. And I think that Chelsea are one of the members that have initially brought the money side into the Premier League more than other clubs have. I know Michelle has touched upon with Arsenal being more of a growth club than a money club, but whichever way you look at it, I think that Chelsea have had more influence on the Premier League than Arsenal have.
Yeah, and some businesses are built on the back of injection of cash. Doesn't make the business any worse. Sometimes they're better businesses than someone who started in their backyard. So it's a fair point.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your turn, yeah.
I'm gonna use your points and then bring the Arsenal flavour into it. So your first point about African players, I must admit, that's fair. You know, being of African descent, I know the influence Chelsea has in African countries. But who had the most black players in a single team first? Arsenal. So I think I get your point, but the reason why Chelsea started to look at those kind of African black players, Arsenal started the trend. That sounds so bad, but Arsenal was one of the first clubs to do it. Arsene Wenger, how many players did he bring from France? Like literally, Arsenal generally had the most black players.
It was always known. Sorry, Shell. Go for it. The birth of foreigners coming to the English Premier League because it was very, very rare. And to be honest, even some of the foreigners that you might not have heard about that were here very early on were sort of here by default. They might have had like family members that lived here. So I'm just saying, it was everywhere, not just Africa.
Yeah, so that's to your point. And then I guess the second thing about, you know, the money aspect of it, that's true. I wouldn't say I hate it in football. I just think, you know, that's the reason why there's conversations about fair play and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's talks that people are looking into Chelsea. But I think in terms of Arsenal, I think they demonstrated, they tried to hang on to the philosophy of trying to keep everything as fair as possible in terms of it went through players' wages, etc. Arsene Wenger himself actually did a fantastic job. He was probably made the club one of the only football clubs to be not in debt in terms of building a massive stadium. And obviously that came from like, you know, it's a lot of sacrifices with players' wages, trying to control that, etc. So I think in terms of the money side, Arsenal almost showed and almost was a blueprint of how to do it correctly. Obviously the game's changed like these days. So obviously it's not as, I mean, that's not possible. It's not sustainable. Also, Arsene Wenger, staying on him, he checked, like, if you want the biggest influence, he changed the way people in the UK played football. He brought in that kind of passing football, ticker-tacker football into the Premier League. Like, no one can generally take that away from him. Obviously, now that's a style that's adopted by most clubs, but literally Arsene Wenger's style of football changed the Premier League, changed UK football. And I mean, I wouldn't go back to the Invincibles time, but again, what a record to hold. No one has broken it till this day.
Have you anything to say back to that, Billy, in terms of the imprint that Arsene had on changing football? Because I know there's been a few people at Chelsea over the years that have certainly changed changed the way people see football?
I think Mourinho came in 100%. I think that when Mourinho came in, a young, exciting, hungry manager, the first time round, of course, and then when he came back also from Real Madrid, I thought that he made his own style. It wasn't about the tiki-taka. It might not have been attractive football, but he came in and said, look, we can defend on the back foot, we can catch them on counter-attacks, we can catch them off the break, and we can score goals and win games and ultimately win trophies from it. So both managers had their own set of tactics on it and different.
But then I guess, that for Mourinho's style of football, have we seen that element in any other teams? That's my thing of Arsene Wenger. That side of football is adopted by so many different managers and so many different teams. I'm not sure Mourinho's style of football ever really was. I mean, it's just you've just said it was Mourinho's thing. I'm just not sure that's in terms. It hasn't changed the Premier League, as in that's just Mourinho's style. If that makes sense.
If it's one thing, with the style Mourinho has, it's a proven style that does win trophies. Like, potentially we're looking at Wenger's style of it. I think there's more of a guarantee with how Mourinho played more defensive than there is with the attacking side or the tiki-taka side of Wenger. But overall, more people probably are tethering more towards the exciting play of the ball and all them sorts of things towards more of Mourinho. But I'd rather trophies than how they play overall.
Yeah. And I think one thing to say, I guess, like this is for the future. I do hope that in terms of Arsenal having influence and changing the most Premier League, I think I'm hoping now with like Arteta and actually the club showing some kind of faith in him, there's going to be a change in how owners view managers in terms of then having that future trust.
You know how to talk to me, Shell. You know how to talk to me.
I need to just throw in one more point. But I think that's another thing that potentially, I'm not saying it's a given, but it could potentially, again, change another shift in the Premier League in the future, should we win the league this year.
If Michelle gets a point, do I get a point?
Yeah, go for it.
Go, Bill.
I just
go for it.
I just want to quickly say with the Arteta thing, it's all the fans wanted him out.
Not all.
99% of Arsenal fans were calling for his name when you broke the record at Arsenal for the most games lost at the start of a season. Most people wanted him out. No one gave him the time of day apart from the Cronkies, who everyone hated and everyone questioned by the decisions to keep Arteta.
Yeah.
So overall, it's good to see that a manager's got the beliefs in them, but there was none of that when it came to the fans or the support for the club.
Yeah, but I think, again, football is an emotional game, right? So actually, I think you'll find with most of the Arsenal fans, what people were asking them was like, do you think Arteta can do the job of getting you into the top four? That was the conversation in terms of, can he get to your top four? Can he win? I mean, it wasn't winning the league at the time. It was essentially, can he get you to the top four? Because actually, when he came as a manager, he won silverware. So to be fair, then people were like, was that a blessing? Was that a curse? Was it not? So like, I don't think anyone was just like, they wanted him out. Every single fan has always wanted their manager out at some point or another, whether it's straight after a game or 6 months into the job. So I think it's unfair to then go, oh, now he's doing well. Arsenal fans, football's an emotional game. You can't be like, just because he's doing well, Arsenal fans, you guys are fake fans because you wanted your manager out. Like, we are reactive. Plus, essentially, the question that we were kind of asking was like, is Arteta up for the job of getting us to top four? I mean, he's kind of proven he is. So I don't know if you can use that as an excuse, as a negative, if that makes sense. At this
point. The way I use it as a negative was because it was finished eighth, and then fifth, where it's proven now.
Yeah, but Alex Ferguson, didn't he go for the same thing? Like when he joined, like he was practically on the ropes. But you never get anyone going, oh, you guys can't hail Alex Ferguson your best manager because you wanted him out in the first. Do you know what I mean? That's my only thing. It's like every manager does go through periods, but fans. Second.
Ding,
Oh,
ding, ding. Sorry, guys. The end of the round. I have to stop it because I feel like that would have gone on forever. This is a strange round. For me, there was a clear winner, and it's just all changed for me at the end there. For me, going by what I know, so this is not biased. I'm only putting in facts. 90% of Arsenal fans was calling for his head. I don't think he'd still be there if fans made the decision, put it that way. I'm not saying that's all fans, but I think Billy's point is spot on. In terms of style of football, though, I would say Shell made a very good point about Arsenal's imprint on the style and attractiveness. I thought you missed the trick there, Bill. The reason being is that although they made maybe a style of football, I feel like Chelsea made positions. So when you look at Chelsea and you look at the centre-back of John Terry, or you look at the Makelele role, people named it after that, the Drogba role in modern-day football, even when it was then, it was almost like, no, you don't have target men anymore. Yeah, but look at this guy. Thought you missed a bit there, Bill. Thought you could have counteracted on individual stuff that Chelsea have continued. So I think Shao had the better point on that. However, Billy gets the win on the second round. I feel like the end of that, I disagreed with you a lot, Shell, and it's put me over to you're winning, but I don't agree with your point on Arsenal. I don't think Billy's being particularly well. He probably is. He's a Chelsea fan, so this is a different match. But I believe Billy, and that is what I found when Arsenal was struggling. Also, your point on Alex Ferguson, it wasn't 3 years that he laboured for. He had a terrible start and was a couple of matches for being sacked. And I think it was about 16 months before he picked up. It was a lot shorter time. I don't believe the comparison was a good one. So 1-1.
Fair.
Makes it in, and there are more reasons.
That's fair. Fair.
So the last point then, and I am looking at my notes just to check. So we'll have to have a winner, and that is historic reason why your club is the best. So we are looking at history now. We're looking at the history of the Premier League. Why? So just a minute ago, we looked at influence, but history, trophies won, moments, players. We're looking at the history, unbeaten teams, unbeaten runs. Historically, if I was to read a book about Arsenal's Premier League history, and if I was to read a book about Chelsea's Premier League history, what one would I want to read more?
Hard one, isn't it? All right, should I go first?
Yeah.
Fine. So, history. I think with Arsenal, I mean, let's start with players. I mean, I can go on for days. We've got, the king. That is, the reason why I support Arsenal. I say the king. He is king number 1 or 2. Ian Wright. What a player. Obviously, I know he came from Palace, but I think we've all seen his heart, even now as with Arsenal. What a great striker. And then we had another one to follow with Henry. I mean, Henry. Huh?
He was all right, wasn't he? Yeah,
I mean, beside being a beautiful man, I mean, what a striker. And that's someone that actually universally, regardless of what team people played for, the respect for Thierry Henry and actually him being certain people's idols and his style of play, his passion, he's always up there. His name still comes up till this day. Obviously, we've had some.
As well, I always have to get a Pompey moment in.
Of course, you do.
You might not remember this, but every Portsmouth fan in the world does. He put a Pompey top on, and we clapped him when we were 5-1 down in the FA Cup because we'd never seen a performance of that magnitude. And he is, to this day, the only player that has had that at Fratton Park.
There you go. See,
did you know that?
No, I didn't actually. I'm gonna Google it afterwards. And obviously, we've had some amazing play. I mean, amazing players. Obviously, I could go on for days. Bergkamp, Perez. Obviously, this is showing my age in terms of my caliber of knowledge in terms of players. Also, I guess we have to kind of look at certain players in terms of what they've. I mean, I'm going to say this before because I know Billy's going to say it, what they've obviously gone on to do as well in terms of for their respective countries, etc. I think Arsenal's a club that actually puts players on that world stage. And actually, we've seen a lot of players that have left that have, had a bit of a demise after that. Arguably, like Van Persie was an amazing striker. Fair enough, he left to go on to play for Man United. But personally, I think had he stayed at Arsenal, he probably wouldn't have won the Premier League. But I mean, he wouldn't have won the Premier League. But at the same time, I think he would have been an Arsenal legend. And I think Arsenal makes legends. I think players that come through Arsenal and are Arsenal through and through become Arsenal legends, and now they are on that world stage. History, I guess, in terms of, as I've said, I think we've won the most silverware. Nothing in Europe, I'll say that, but we've won the most silverware. We've won the FA Cup the most times. I will go back to the Invincibles. I mean, that is a record that's still yet to be broken, despite everyone saying that, the Premier League has got, more successful, there's more money in there, but still, that record still remains. What else? I think that's it for now.
Just that.
No, literally, I'm just like, there's so much, and I've covered off so much history, but I think, we're just a great club.
Why is Chelsea historically the best club in London?
How far do you want to go back with history? That's
history is however far you want to go back. Because history could be the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
The last 2 decades, right? I remember we were winning trophies in the 97 and the early 2000s. I remember Chelsea won an FA Cup in 98, I want to say, and 2000. The last trophy before that was actually it was either 35 or 55. We won a trophy, and then the next trophy we won was in 97. Sorry, so there was.
Was that the FA Cup against Middlesbrough where Di Matteo scored? Is that the one?
What, in 97?
Yeah, or 98.
I think it may have been the Middlesbrough one. But going back to history points, the argument with Abramovich money that has been made quite a lot is, prior Abramovich, you weren't winning nothing. Completely false. We were winning stuff before Abramovich. But if we do take the last 2 decades into account, Arsenal have been missing. They pop up every so often. Last time they won a Premier League 2 decades ago now. And overall, I think that we have proven it, especially at the biggest stage. We are one of a minimal amount of clubs to win every trophy there is to win at club level. We're looking at the likes of Bayern Munich, Juventus, Man United. We're among them names when it comes to trophies won, not as numbers wise, but as what trophies we have won. I think we're one of the only English sides to win the Club World Cup. And I think when we look at historic, we look at the world stage, and we also look at the last 20 years, if you want to look at it that way. And I think Arsenal have been non-existent compared to Chelsea. And I think overall, Arsenal have, if we're looking at the history of it, Baku, we beat Arsenal in a very huge way, winning 4-1. And we look at them sorts of games and points, and you think, prior to that, I would have said Arsenal were the biggest club in London. But when we look at them sorts of moments, especially now having 2 Champions Leagues under our belts, I think there's not much of a debate when it comes to the bigger club. If we're looking at just hauling in on London, Arsenal have more history there compared to the world stage. But as a club, I think we have to look at Chelsea more than Arsenal at a world stage. Chelsea over Arsenal at a world stage. I think we've won more at a European level, whether it is Champions League, Europa Leagues, Club World Cups, Super Cups. And when we're looking at that type of it with history, Arsenal can't compete at all.
When you say missing in the last 20 years, what do you mean?
You haven't won a major trophy.
And that's the only. But the thing is, even that, there's been seasons where you guys have been missing. Does that play a part, or
there's odd seasons.
Yeah, but we've been consistent. We've been consistent with. I mean, there was a period of time everyone laughed at us at the top 4. Everyone laughed at us, was like, we're consistently in the top 4. But then actually, then actually the priorities changed after a while. Obviously, after we dropped out of it, then everyone started to go, actually, top 4 is what we're aiming for. Before that, in Premier League history, all everyone wanted to do was win the league, and that was it. No one really looked at top 4. Everyone took the piss out of Arsenal. Whereas now everyone's like top 4. Like, you see, like that top 4 race has become a bigger thing. Did we create that? Just going to leave it there. So I wouldn't say we were missing. We were consistent. No, but we were consistent there. And actually, with that comes, obviously, we know money, exposure, etc. But that's what you say we were missing. But we were consistent. It's only been the last what?
Consistently doing what?
In the top 4. The top 4 is actually a viable target for clubs. It's a viable target.
Prior to your statement, you said winning is the aim. So taking part.
But when I was talking about the winning part, it's in rebuttal to the fact that you were talking about you're dismissing the Invincibles.
I'm not dismissing. I'm saying they're overrated.
You said, yeah, exactly. But you dismissed it. That's the dismiss. That is a record that no one has broken. You can't.
Same with Chelsea's defensive record, but you dismissed that, saying that it's about winning and all them sorts of bits. But we're winning games.
Yeah, but defensive record, I think that's clutching at straws.
It's not, because scoring goals wins you games. Defending goals and clean sheets wins you leagues. That's the major difference.
But no, you haven't actually. The thing is with the defensive record, there's no one talks about that apart from Chelsea fans trying to dig out a kind of like stat that stands up to the Invincible stat. You'll never go up to a Chelsea fan and be like, "What have you achieved?" Like, "Oh, we've got the best defense records." That's scraping the barrel, personally.
It's not. It's a record that no one's been able to sniff. You've said that we've come close, and other teams have come close to being Invincibles. No one's come close to our record.
A record that only Chelsea fans talk about.
A record that's very important. If we're looking at records, a record's a record.
I guess the place which one's actually important.
That is going to be the end of the battle, guys. End of the battle. And I'm going to summarise a couple of things that we've discussed. First of all, Shell, you're not going to like this, but I agree with Billy's point that the undefeated Arsenal side were overrated. They should have lost a couple of times. Certainly. I know they didn't, and that's where I will agree with you factually. They are the only team that's done it regardless. And any team that goes unbeaten, right, will have struggles. It's impossible. They go 2-0 down and win, or a VAR decision will go against them. If it ever happens again, there will be, you can't do it just easily, straight run. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. But I do think they were overrated, and my opinion is that the Chelsea team under Mourinho defensively, what Billy has said, would have turned over the Invincible side if they both met head to head the fastest. At their best. Billy, with Chelsea, you claimed something there of winning the Club World Cup. I mean, that for me is scraping barrels. That is a one-game Club World Cup playing whoever. That should never have been mentioned in any conversation with the amount of history Chelsea's got. Shell did not stoop that low to pull out a Club World Cup. That is ridiculous. However, Shell, you got caught out by Bill in this round. Look, you said about a good defence will win your leagues, yeah? We're in a boxing match, and I'll tell you what boxers say. A knockout punch will win you fights, and a good jab will take you around the world and be a heavyweight. And on that basis, Billy was correct to say you had been talking about winning all night, and now all of a sudden top four all the time was good, and that Arsenal hadn't gone missing. Arsenal have been missing recently when we look at big winners, and Chelsea have not. So this is hard for me on this round, and that's why. But that's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but as the ref, that's what I'll take from what you guys said.
Can I say something? One thing.
No, you can't influence my decision.
I'm not influencing your decision.
Anything you say now may. If we were in a court, I'd slam my... I am... Oh, where's Shell? What have you done with Shell?
Thanks. I do feel that, I mean, I should have won all rounds. And I think that, sorry, this is my acceptance speech, by the way, for my win. I feel like I would have won all rounds. I probably set myself up for a few falls. That's why you won that second round.
Still here. Why am I? Yeah. Why can I only see one thing? Have I gone?
I can only see me.
I can only see you as well. Oh, we're all in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh,
there we go.
There you go.
Apologies for that,
my winner tonight is, I think, London. I'm going to have to end the show on here because I know after you guys are going to be screaming at me. But I think London is officially the colour claret and blue, West Ham. Good night, everyone.
You're actually out of order.
That is actually the end. It was always my plan to begin with.
What was you going to say, Billy?
The reason I mentioned Club World Cup was because when we look at teams, the clubs that have won it all, every cup you can win, Chelsea are amongst a few that have won it. And I was lifting off.
I know, but I wouldn't even put that in there. I wouldn't. To me, that's like saying, yeah, it's not even League Cup state. You play one game against some random team. Well, okay, you might play the UEFA Cup team, but it's, or whoever you play, there's another club, like African champions. Who is it that they play?
But one thing I will say about the top four, because I feel like that's been misconstrued, is we have to admit, right, nowadays, people are aiming for the top four. It's become a bigger conversation, right, in the league.
Yes, but you also answered your own question because you said at the time that wasn't ever mentioned about. Did we make it? You said now you're claiming, as someone who was claiming to be winners, that now your objective is that you've made top four to be a good attribute.
Yeah, fair.
Michelle?
I agreed with Billy's point there. By the way, will this still go out where we are now? We'll stop it.
Oh no, but he can edit it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to smoke.
Yeah, just do what you need to do.
I just want to quickly say, Michelle, with your point of top four, what is the point in aiming for top four to get Champions League football?
No one's obviously, but to get Champions League football. For me, it wasn't the fact that I just think things have changed so much that actually people are actually aiming for top four football.
Put it this way, back in the day, easiest way to explain it, back in the day, everyone would try and win the League Cup. The League Cup would be like, when you have a look, it was Tottenham's last trophy. It was an achievable cup for teams that couldn't win the league. And they would look to win that. They wouldn't even care about top four. Whereas now, where the game's monetized, they have to get top four is like better than, if you ask clubs like Tottenham, would you rather win the League Cup or top four? It's top four straight away. So it has changed. And a lot of that is to do with the money side.
That's probably what. Yeah, to be fair, good point. But it has shifted. I probably just didn't phrase that in the
like people. Yeah, that's how you probably should have worded it.
Yeah, but that's what I didn't word it in the right way.
Because it's been more monetized. That's why it's more important as well. When Pompey won the FA Cup in 2008, I looked at our prize money and I was like upset. I thought we'd get quite a few quid. It's really peanuts. And then you look at the prize money and money you get for going into Champions League. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's mental. It's life changing.
We got something like 9 million for winning the FA Cup in 2008. You know, that's not a long time ago. And even at that time, getting into the Champions League earned you 40, 50 million straight away as soon as you was in there.
I think the biggest point I had with Michelle saying about top four was you said, like, with obviously the winners, everything like that, it's good being in the Champions League, but you still to this day haven't won it out of the whole history.
No, fair.
Whereas
Your point on Arsenal underachieving in Europe is 100%.
Oh yeah. That, and the thing is, that's always going to be Arsenal's downfall. Like, regardless of how you look at it, like, that is always.
You know what? Historically, yes. You might like what I'm going to say. You might not like it. I actually think Arteta is geared up to be a better Champions League manager than any manager that you've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, he won't win the leagues that Arsenal won, but if he can galvanise the squad to be comfortably top four, so the challenge is slightly always there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
A bit like when Man
United. I was just going to say, just quickly, why don't we just click end on it?
Oh yeah, sorry.
It saves to breathe edit